Welcome, everyone, to this week's Life Conversations with a Twist. I have Melissa Franks on the show today. We just met. That's the one thing I love about the podcasting world is that we get connected to all these amazing women all over the world. And you reached out, and I'm like, yes, I'm here for all the conversations. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to where the conversation takes us.
I love it. So tell our listeners a little about who you are. Like, what's your day-to-day life? Your mom, which we just we can relate to on many things, and like where you live, and then we'll just dive into a little about the work you're doing and your podcast.
Um, Fantastic. I feel like I need to operate in the land of full transparency. So I am a 46-year-old single mom. I feel like ages are important for
They are.
women to understand.
Yep.
So I'm 46 years old. I am a single mom. And when I say single mom, because I just want to be real clear, we live under a restraining order. So that means I am the only adult that they have any interaction with that does anything. So that's a, whole extra set of full-time jobs and et cetera. I live in California, in Northern California, north of San Francisco. So in beautiful wine country for anybody that needs a
Oh,
landmark geographic reference.
that's where I'm at too. For some reason, I thought you were out of state. I didn't realize you were here in Sonoma County as well.
Yeah, no, I'm in Petaluma for
Okay.
anybody that wants like inside baseball, where we are. And I grew up here. So my family is from here. I went to college here. I moved to the big old city when I was in my 20s and then came back. And I have been here ever since. And I had a really amazing corporate career for 25 years and went to a startup for a while and then started my own business out of necessity. Really, my life had changed pretty significantly, and I couldn't travel all the time like I used to. So I'm here. I've got two teenagers and an almost teenager, and I live the life of running a business and chauffeur and short order cook and overall problem solver.
It's so funny. Like everyone's like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, you just do. Like I just feel
Oh,
like it's not even, it just comes second nature and you work through the things and you find the things that work and the support you need and you make it work. And
absolutely.
that's what we do. I did not realize you were a single mom. So hats off to you because that's a lot of work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I was pretty much a single mom before. So, in some ways, it's a little bit easier because I don't have to navigate the other situation anymore. We just do our thing.
I love that. So, can you talk a little bit about where like your background of like your career started and kind of like what kind of led you to where you are today?
Yeah. Everything that has been professionally achieved by myself has been an accident. And I use accident intentionally. I don't want to say kismet or coincidence, like it's literally an accident. There was no plan. I went to college and thought I was going to be a high school teacher and abandoned the mission when I realized I looked like a high school student. Nobody was going to take me seriously. And as luck would have it, I was offered a corporate job with about a year left in my college career. And so I was commuting to San Francisco 3 days a week, which was an hour and a half bus ride one way when I did my homework. Because back then, the internet was a new thing. So I could do my homework on the bus. There was no Wi-Fi. And that corporate job, which was an administrative assistant role, turned into a job offer before I had officially graduated from college. And I worked for the Gap. So I was inside of a massive multinational corporation at 21 and didn't really know what I was doing, but I just kept saying yes and asking a ton of questions and kept saying yes. And that led me into the technology area shortly thereafter. We were in the middle of the dot-com boom, like tech was everywhere. Like we literally going to people's garages and like figuring stuff out. And my love of problem solving and analyzing things really came into play there. And so I was able to develop a really robust career in technology before things like STEM really existed. It was just if you had enough gumption to learn things and ask questions and fail, they kept you around. And when a very large multi-billion dollar project that we were working on came to an end, I kind of had two options. I could stay there and then go do really boring things that were incredibly repetitive and on antiquated technology, or I could leave and go to a financial services company that was in my backyard and I didn't have to commute anymore, but I knew nothing about financial services. So I went and worked for the financial services company. And I was the youngest person there by about 30 years, generally speaking. Everybody that I worked with was counting down days until retirement. They all had grandchildren. They had all worked there since high school. They were like high school interns. I had gone from this incredibly young female, high fashion sort of situation to like slow and grandparents. And nobody could handle my level of energy. But what served me really well there was continuing to stay curious. And so over 15 years, it was a business that was actually a global business based in Europe. And over 15 years, I was able to go from this entry level kind of analyst position to the chief operating officer of one of their technology companies. And I got to participate in multi-billion dollar merger and acquisition transactions. I got to participate in multi-billion dollar technology initiatives. I was able to speak to the board of directors that was based in Munich. It's the largest financial services company in the world. I flew around the world. Like I had all of these amazing opportunities. And then I hit a ceiling. And I hit a ceiling because the story was the same as it was at the beginning. I was in a room full of old white men, and they told me directly that this is as far as you're going to go. And I was 42. And I had 35 years left to work, and that wasn't going to cut it. So I left and I went to a startup that failed after 10 months. And right as that was failing, I was in the midst of the beginning stages of a domestic violence, family court, divorce, uh, full-time job, because that's really what that is, except it does the opposite of pay you. It just costs you a bunch of money. And I needed to make money and I needed to have ultimate flexibility to be in court all the time and to take care of my kids. And so I called a friend and I said, "Hey, remember when you said you needed help a few weeks ago with your new business? Do you still need help?" And she said, "Yes." And that was the beginning of the business. And it was rough for, 9 months or so, but I finally got my groove and here we are, thriving business.
So you're probably like me. You never thought you would own your own business. Like I literally was thinking about this week. I'm like, I never in a million years thought I would own a business. I would never go back to working for an employer. And so it's just so interesting to hear other stories. And it's like, yeah, that was not my path, but this is the path that led me here.
I had dabbled. So, like, I had tried a few other times to start things on the side because, in full transparency, the corporate job was not paying me what I was worth. I
Mhm.
was making about half of the salary I should have been making, and they refused to make any sort of adjustment. And that was a really big sticking point for me. And so I had tried things and had failed. And so I had written myself off as not an entrepreneur. It is your job to run businesses for other people, which I'm amazingly gifted at. What I didn't have that forethought to see, and which is what I'm doing now, is that in fact, I can do both things. I
Mhm.
can have my own business because my business is the business of running your businesses. And I get to do the thing that I'm amazing at and that I absolutely love all day long. It just happens to be that I do it on my own terms instead of somebody else's.
Oh, so good. So what do you do now? Like, I want to hear more about your business. I have so many questions just in general with the consulting world too. So we'll dive into this too.
So like by trade, I am a chief operating officer. Like that is where I am credentialed. That is where I am experienced. That is if you go look on LinkedIn or ask for my resume, you're going to see call references. That's the answer you're going to get. Yes, this is what she does. And I knew that that was something I always wanted to do. And the reason for that is because the chief operating officer is everything that the CEO, owner, or founder does not want to be. So there are no two COO roles that are the same
Mhm.
because every owner, founder, CEO is gifted and enjoys doing different things. And so that means you get to be a little bit of a chameleon and you get to learn all sorts of things that you never ever thought you would be interested in. And so, when I started this business, it was because I had a friend that had started a startup and she didn't know what she was supposed to be doing. She's like,
Mhm.
I know what I want the technology to do, but like, I need to hire people and I need to establish this business and we want to IPO in the future. Like, she literally was out of her depth. And so I came in to set all of the structures in place and to make sure she was compliant with her investors, like super sexy things. And so, um, my my business from the outset was to be able to provide the resources to female owners or leaders inside of small business that didn't have access to the resource, quite frankly, that men had. I had a lot of women, friends, and colleagues that left corporate during COVID and they started their own businesses, and every single one of them, there isn't one, failed. And when I asked them what happened, there was one bad piece of advice from one person they trusted that they followed to the end of the earth and the end of their business. And so this business is founded on the mission that we are here to be the business experts. We're here to be the guides when needed. We're here to be the boss or the strong voice of reason and balance and curiosity, because we have the business acumen, because we've done it. I've built a business from 50 million to 350 million, which also, by the way, was $500 million in the hole when I inherited it. So we know because we've done. And so my goal is to make more female entrepreneurs successful. And the best way that I can do that is by giving them sound business advice and helping them find the right way to run their business.
Oh my God, so good. How many businesses have you helped over the years, or like what is your like sweet spot on how many you clients you take on at a time? Because I would imagine a COO, like you were saying, like there's so many different jobs, but you're like in the nut and the bolts of like the
Yeah.
business, which it can be very time consuming.
It absolutely can. And that's one of the reasons that my business, which is On Call COO, started with me as a team of one. And the premise is that while my expertise can't be duplicated, you can't take what's in my head and what I know and how I look at things. There are other amazingly brilliant minds that can complement what I know and do. And so there is now a handful of literally hand selected women with complementary skills. So nobody duplicates an experience, expertise, like zone of genius, et cetera, that are available. And we operate as a brain trust. So
Mm.
this isn't a staffing agency where you say, I need help. And like, then we like do a sales call and then just like blindly throw a consultant at you and like wish you the best and then have them continue to like upsell and keep the retainer and all those things. Instead, the way that this works is that prospective clients come in and we determine if it's the right fit. Generally speaking, if your business doesn't make $3 million, we can definitely do some consultancy work for you. And there's a variety of ways that we do that on a limited basis. But if you need a fractional COO, 3 million is about the minimum revenue to get somebody in. And then we look at what you need.
Mm.
Where are the areas where you're struggling? Where do you want help? Where do you want to be able to focus? And then we find the right combination. And the best part is that you get all of the COOs. You don't just get one. And so while you and I may primarily work together, I might be in your meetings and the one talking to you all of the time. Behind the scenes, we're constantly having conversations. This is what has come up. This is what I'm thinking. Does somebody have a better way to handle this? What should we do? And if we need to tap somebody in and we're like, hey, like, I don't really understand contracts very well, but this person really, really does, then we just bring them in to help out. And it's a very different feminine approach to how to work together because the entire mission is to enable these businesses to grow and for these owners or leaders to be able to live the life that they want because the business is supposed to enable that.
Mhm.
So we operate a little bit differently. To answer your question directly, I think I'm working with 9 or 10 clients right now, but it really depends. A handful of those are what I refer to as phone a friend clients. So 1 hour a week, we get into a Zoom and they just get to ask whatever they want. Or some of them are able to voice message me back and forth. So as things come up, they're like, hey, I don't know how to handle this situation, or this came up, or I got this letter and I don't know what this is. So The relationships are slightly different, and that's the other thing is that business principles are consistent and the same, and every business at the end is identical. How the business operates, who owns it, what's important, what they sell, that's where the unique comes in. And so we balance those things together.
Do you only work with women,
No,
or do
I
you
have
just
had a
find that primarily that's the clients that you have, or do you is it a little of everything?
It's interesting because my primary lead source is paid advertising. And so it's probably 70-30, 70% that comes in is women and 30% is men. I've had a few male clients. And also I have one client right now that I'm working with, and it's owned by a gentleman and it's run by a female CEO. And his
Mm.
entire team is female. So the importance is helping women thrive and succeed. And in this case, the CEO is the one that hired me. I work directly with the owner, but the CEO is the one that hired me. And so we're here to make sure that she's successful, which means he's successful by in turn. But no exclusion. It just is kind of the way the cookie crumbles.
And are you seeing that there's more of a demand in certain industries, or is it kind of all across the board?
It's it's everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, it's everywhere, and it's usually driven by a couple of things. One of them is that the owner is exhausted. So they have been doing the grind and doing the thing for a really, really, really long time and just can't and hate their business and are up against a brick wall. So that's one is I get some very exhausted individuals in front of me. They're like, I just can't even take another step, let alone run another mile in this business. Um, Sometimes it's owners that do not want to manage the team that they have to have.
Mm.
They don't want it. They want to go be creative. They want to go be innovative. They want to not work as much, but they really do not want to deal with the people. They just want the people to get things done. That is incredibly common. Um, and then the third is that something's happened in the business and they don't know what to do. So the business has hit a
Mm.
plateau, or profit margin is shrinking, or actually top line revenue is decreasing year over year, and they really don't know what to do. Those are the three primary drivers. Occasionally, and I have one client right now, occasionally I'll get a business where they're like, this thing's growing so fast, it's like a runaway train. I don't know what to do. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen this way. I had a plan and it was going to be steady and methodical. And in 2028, I was going to be here and not, I don't know what to do.
Which is a good
There's
problem to have, right?
it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's what I refer to as like when the wheels fall off. And every business has these moments where the wheels fall off. And so there's occasionally that too. It's just not as common. I mean, generally speaking, it takes a really long time to figure out how to get to $1 million,
Mm.
a really long time. So all you're doing is like testing and trying, and it's exhausting to get to 1 million. And then you feel really, really, really good between 1 and 3 because you have a couple of people working for you, things you know what you're doing, you can relax a little bit, you're not working as much. And then there's something that happens like right around 3 million, and either businesses stall completely and slide backwards, or they know exactly what they need to do and there's just no energy left to
Mm.
get there. It is a really fascinating like tipping point for every business that I have seen. And so that's why I selected the spot primarily, because it's usually when the most help is needed,
Mm.
and you don't really need, this shocks people, in my opinion. You don't really need a full-time COO, which can run you anywhere from 500,000 to $1 million, depending on who you hire, until you're like at 25 million plus.
Mm.
If you have the right person that actually knows what they're doing, you don't need them full time. Your business just isn't complex enough. It's not big enough. You don't have enough people there. Like it's not. Um, and that's been a really interesting aha moment for a lot of business owners that have even had full-time COOs, and then they've realized that they didn't actually have a COO. They had somebody somebody other than that lower level.
I'm seeing that so much, especially since I've gone out on my own doing like consulting work as well, is that there's so many businesses, especially like around COOs or a GM, or I do a lot more like business development, right? And they don't really like you were saying, they don't need someone full time. They just need somebody, to like help move the needle. And I think I'm sure you've seen there's so much of that happening now. Like people are bringing in consultants rather than like hiring as an employee, and then you're not having to pay all the employee costs and all the things around it. Is that been your experience as well in this type of
It
business?
Yeah, you start to see it with the really savvy business owners. For example, when one business that I will be working with beginning next month, they have had fractional CMO, fractional COO, fractional CFO. They really leaned into that model. And what they also found, which is true, is that depending on who you bring in, you may only need them for a season. You may need that role forever and ever. Amen. And in this case, I'm just coming in and following in the footsteps of somebody else because they need something different than what they currently have. And that's okay. That's the whole point of consultants. Where businesses get into trouble, and this is true across the board, is um, and women do this more than men, which I will also say, is that you need to hire somebody. So you hire your best friend, or you hire your sister, or you hire somebody in your community that you've been around a lot, that you trust. And then you give them an overinflated title because you want them to feel equal, because in your personal life, they're equal. So you're trying to keep homeostasis, like
Mhm.
when we're at Easter dinner, we're equal. So that means that when we're in the business, we're equal. And that is not true. That is, otherwise they would be your partner. So that's not true. And so then what starts to happen is you start to overinflate titles of other people that you're bringing in because you don't want there to be misalignment.
Mm.
And if you have, if you, that family friend or whoever that is, if you name them chief of snowflakes, and then you want to bring in somebody that's chief of unicorns, right? They may not, but you can only pay them $30,000 a year. They're definitely not a chief of unicorns. They're just somebody you're calling that because you don't want to hurt their feelings and you want everybody in the team to be equal. And then all of a sudden you have a $5 million business and you actually need a chief of unicorns or a chief of snowflakes, and you can't go get it because they're already there, but they're not really there. And so women often, to make everybody feel good and to keep homeostasis, will over title and undercompensate. And then we end up in a situation where we have to really shake the snow globe and resettle things, and it damages relationships. Every business that I think that I have looked at, there has been family or friends or somebody involved, and I always recommend um, to either A, not do it to begin with, or B, create as much separation as possible when the business can handle it. So reporting structures are really clean, because inevitably it's going to blow up. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Mm. So good. I'm finding so many as going back to the consulting world. I'm seeing so many people who are experts in what they do. They've experienced, they've worked the 9 to 5 grind. They're really good at what they do, and they're like, hey, we're going to move into this consulting
Yeah.
world. What like tools or things that as you were growing your business did you find helpful? Because I mean, I'm kind of also speaking to myself, right? Like I know what I'm really good at, but like being really clear about what it is that I do and then selling it and then selling your value and selling your worth. Like what were some tools or things that you've learned along your journey to where you
Yeah.
are?
That's such a good question. I was just talking to a friend about this an hour ago. So it was
Great.
really
So it's fresh.
very timely. Um, for me specifically, I'm always very aware of where I have knowledge and skill gaps, like very aware. And because of my age and like when I went to school and all those things, the internet, social media, like that whole world, while I understand it and I operate within it from a business perspective, it just didn't exist. And
Mhm.
by the time it did, I didn't really need to dabble in it because I was off somewhere else where it didn't really matter. And so when I started this business, initially I was like, well, I need to know how to sell online, and I need to know how to leverage social media. And so I really, with my spare time that I had and the very little cash that I had, I dove into that world. And what ended up happening was I got really distracted
Mhm.
because I was getting all of this advice and coaching and learning techniques. And like my brain was happy because I was learning all this stuff. I was getting all these things. And I was not generating results at all. I have a podcast out this week actually about this specifically. Like it did not generate any results. And that's because I had skipped a step. And what I advise everybody to do that's monetizing their expertise is get really clear on what you're not.
Mm.
So And that is an easier list often to say what you are. So what are you not? What are you not? Who are you not serving? Would you overextend yourself? If you got a client that did XYZ today, could you actually help them? Right. And when I was able to quiet that down about a year ago and say very expressly, like, which businesses am I actually going to help the most?
Mm-hmm.
Who is going to want to keep me forever because they're dazzled by the things that I'm doing? When I got really clear on who, very specifically, then I was able to align that to what I do, and even more loudly, what I do not do, where I don't play, where I'm not excellent at, where you should go find somebody else. And that's what I recommend to everybody that's monetizing their expertise. You need to have just start clarity around the pocket that you're best at, whatever that is. And it doesn't matter if you are a CPA or a bookkeeper or a business consultant, or, there's consultants out there that help you sell your business, and they sell some businesses really well, but not other businesses. So just know your lane, because there's plenty of opportunity there. You're not limiting yourself, but know your lane. And then once I had that, then I was able to use all of the tools at play. I was able to learn how to run paid ads, and I ran paid ads. And I was able to understand that social media is a second set of verification. It's my business portfolio. It's not my lead generation engine. So treat it that way. I treat social media like a photographer that's going to get hired for a shoot, where you can actually pull the binder out and you're like, here's all of the evidence that I'm good at what I do from a photography perspective. Well, you go to my Instagram account and you can sit there for the next 3 days and make a determination off of whether or not I know what I'm talking about. And so getting that clarity about what I was not, so that I could get very clear on who I can serve and what I can do for them, unlocked growth exponentially. Like, it just, as soon as that was figured out and then really on fire by the end of September of last year. And it's just like a constant growth engine at this point. And that was all that it was. That was really the difference.
So good. I am, again, like, still trying to like figure out my world, and it's so funny because like I have a coach now, and so it's interesting. Like, I'm a coach that has a coach, and I'm just like embracing that, because I'm like, they're bringing in a different perspective than I have, because I am so focused on one task that I can't see clearly, and that we just went through that whole exercise, and now I'm like, psh, mind blown. And I'm like, okay, when can we start? And I'm like, okay, so and like doing the exercises around that. But there was so confusion and so many noises out there. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna take a class in like building out newsletters and getting referrals here, and I got to do this, and it becomes overwhelming that you just get overwhelmed and you want to stop. So I love just like being simple, of like getting back to the basics of like,
Yeah.
here's the foundation that you need to build first.
Yeah, it's a game changer because it brings you peace of mind too. It helps you articulate on a daily basis and like qualify and do all of those things.
So good. Okay, here's another question for you. Um, and you probably have very good advice on this and experience around this, because now you're dealing with a company and you're like, here's my knowledge, here's my experience, here's my network, here's all the things, here's all the reasons why to hire me. And then you give them your price and they're like, oh, that's really expensive. And like, how do you get confident in like selling your experience and selling your worth and like what you bring to the table? I feel like that's another thing that a lot of people struggle with, is like, how do you kind of even price yourself, but like, how do you sell yourself on that value?
That's a great question. So as far as pricing goes, it was a combination of a few things, and I can speak to that a little bit. I understood what the market looked like. I actually went out and I was pricing where I could. I understood if I went to go get a corporate job, what that would look like. So just very pragmatically, like, what do I need? How does all of this make sense? Like, what do I need to exist? And then I, unless it is just like they will not let it go, I do not have an hourly bill rate. I do not record time. We do not charge by the hour. I do not agree with it. And so we operate from a retainer model, and it's really around the level of support that you get. full stop. And so you can choose, and there's like 3 different levels. We get really creative, like 99% of the time. So I say that, and then I'm like, actually, there's like 17. But for the purposes of this, there's really 2 fractional COO options, and then there's some other support options if you need support and you're not ready for a fractional COO. And it's just a price. It's now, of course, it's backed by all of the things that I just mentioned, but this is just the price is for this level of support or this level of support. And we always come in with a recommendation. Most of the time, I have one client that's at the highest tier right now. Almost everybody else, that lower tier is what makes sense for them, just based on what's happening in their business. But we give them all the options, but make a recommendation. And from a how do you sell yourself? How do you be confident? How do you get the close? This is going to seem potentially like advice from an arrogant person or a little bit egotistical. And I'm going to tell you that this is how I walked into every sales conversation, even when I was not making any money. So in March of 2024, my one client that I had, she'd given me notice the prior month. I had no money coming in. I had no leads. I had no referrals. There was no money. And I walked into a conversation strongly with the perspective of, I'm here to help, I can help you, and I don't need your business. And by being able to remove myself emotionally from the outcome and just be rooting for that person. So whether you need me or you need somebody else, like I'm going to lay out for you the sort of support you need. And at the end of the day, it's up for you to decide, And I got that client. So that conversation resulted in a 9-month contract. And ultimately they hired somebody full-time that was physically where they were, which is really what they needed. They needed like to be able to touch and have somebody there. And that
See them
was
in their office every day.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was not me. They also didn't need my strategy brain, so they overbought with me. So it was a good move all around. But that mindset of I'm here to listen and be curious and learn about you. And in the end, if I can help you, I'm going to let you know the ways I can help you. And if it's not the right time or you need to do a little bit more work in your business so you can figure out how to afford it or like whatever it might be, I really, really wish you well. And I'll be here when you get there. It's amazing how much easier those conversations are because you're able to sit confidently all the way through the conversation. You're able to not get distracted by a beating heart, sweaty palms, a red face. Like none of those things happen because you're really sitting from a place of no harm, no foul. No matter what happens, I'm going to be whole and intact. And tomorrow there will be somebody else that's ready, willing, and able. We don't have discussions about discounts, price change, like any of those things. If somebody wants a different level of support, and we'll definitely price that for them, but the price is the price is the price is the price.
So good. Such a good reminder too. Thank you for that. Because sometimes it's like, it's like owning your worth. And I love that perspective. You have a podcast. Talk about your podcast.
Yeah. My podcast is a funny little show. So I started the podcast in December 2022, right after I left corporate and I went to the startup world. And at the time, my goal was to like tell all of the secrets. If you want to be successful in business, I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you the stuff nobody's telling you. I'm going to tell you the stuff people are hoarding. And if you go back and listen to those, like by the first year and a half worth of episodes, you'll get it all. You will get all the tea spilled. Like it is all there. Like I held nothing back because I just feel like if I had known, I would have risen faster and been less frustrated and all things. And then when I started my own business, I realized that a lot of the conversations I was having were valuable conversations for anybody, whether they own a business, they want to own a business one day, or they're just working inside of a small business and are trying to figure out what to do. And so my podcast is called Opt In because I have this strong point of view that every day you get to make a choice about what you are opting into every day. And you can choose differently whenever you want. We could probably have a whole other conversation about Sheryl Sandberg and Lean In and my perspective on that, which I won't go into. So it's a little bit tongue in cheek on that because I feel like you can always make a different choice tomorrow. You can always make a different choice today. And so really a focus around what are you or are you not going to opt into, and I'm going to give you all of the information that I possibly can so that you can make an informed decision about whatever you decide to do. So most of the podcast now is focused on business tactics and tips and tricks. It's things I'm working on with my clients. I just recorded an episode yesterday about accountability. So sometimes things will happen out in the greater world that has nothing to do with business, and it will get me fired up. And so then I'll talk about the consequences of, people not taking accountability for 45 minutes, which is what I did yesterday.
I love it. So it's solo. You do solo episodes.
Most of the time,
Yeah.
occasionally I'll have an interview depending on what the topic is. I want to add value every time.
Mhm.
And so I want to make sure that the people that I'm targeting have such a limited time. And often they're listening to me like in the car or on 2 times speed while they're like taking a walk or whatever. So I want them to be able to get really good nuggets of actionable advice every single episode. And so I have people on when I know that they're gonna really deliver that punch in detail.
I love that. I will have to follow because before when I was commuting a lot, I enjoyed a long podcast, but now I'm like, okay, I'm going from home to the gym. I have 15 minutes. Like, give me something so I can like, yes, I
Yeah,
learned and I can move on.
absolutely.
I love that. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about or anything else like in your business world that you like learned along the way that you wish others would know about?
I think that the other thing that I'll say, and again, this conversation I had this morning was full of nuggets. Apparently, we probably should have recorded it.
It's
Is
always those conversations. I'm like, dang it, I wish I had.
it always is. It's you actually need to talk to humans that you don't see every day.
Mhm.
And I did a horrific job of networking. I was inside of the same business for 15 years. I was a big fish in a small pond, proverbially. There were 200,000 people, but I was a big fish in that 200,000 person pool. And when I had to leave and then I needed help, I needed like access to business owners, I needed referrals, there was nobody there.
Mhm.
And the one thing that I would recommend to everybody, I don't care what you're doing, what business you're in, who you work for, is today, right now, go invite somebody to coffee. Today, right now, go find a local networking event. Today, right now, go find a conference to go to, even if you have to go by yourself. And then go talk to people when you're there. Do not hide in the lobby and back in your room and all the things. I'm an introvert by nature, and the biggest wish I would give back to my 22-year-old self when she started her career was to force myself to find opportunities to build connection, build relationships, connect, and then foster those and keep them. Because you're going to be a wealth of resource for other people. So when they need a favor, when they need a recommendation, when they need a referral, when they need an introduction, if you're highly connected, they're going to seek you out. And B, if you're highly connected when you need help, you have a ton of opportunity in front of you. So I would say, like, the one piece of advice I would give everybody is go find new ponds to jump into and actively participate while you're there.
So good. I mean, I talk about that till the cows come home because I truly believe in that, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't do that at 20. I did do that. There's a lot of things I did not do, but that was one of the things, and I'm so thankful for that. So thank you for that little nugget.
You're
I'm
welcome.
so excited that we met. I'll put all of your information in the show notes, but for people listening, I know you rattled off your names of your company and your podcast, but just say it one more time, and I hope that we stay connected.
Yeah, I hope so too. So my podcast is Opt In. You can find it wherever you look for podcasts. My name is Melissa Franks. My website is melissafranks.com. Could it be any easier? The business though is On Call COO. So those are the ways to find me, or come follow me on Instagram. I'm over there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to see where your business goes, and hopefully we can do some collaborations in the future too.
Thank you.
Awesome.